Hey folks, my name is Jason Kennedy, and I'm the Senior Engineering Manager of Engineering Experience at One Medical. And today I want to talk about learning from experiences. Let's look at some potentially terrible situations. Standing in a never ending line at a theme park, being stranded on the side of the road with no help, and discomfort in a medical appointment. These are situations that we often dread or fear, not the kind of situations that you want to do often, much less recreate. But I love learning patterns, trends, and models from other industries and applying it to my own work. And I think there's a lot that we can learn about customer service from these interactions, places that make magical, joyful, and compassionate experiences instead. And so I'm going to focus on a general development experience, but this is applicable for any platform experience, whether it's internal, external, whether you're on a platform team or not. So I want to start with this. How many of your developers would agree that their development experience is magical? But what is magic? Well, let's go to the source itself, Disney, who actually writes a lot about how they do this. And they say that for the magician, the show is a highly practical process made up of a series of meticulously planned, well rehearsed steps that are designed to delight the audience. So, apologies to our kid selves, but magic is not magic to the magicians. And so, what might that mean to bring magic to our platforms? If magic is just meticulously planned experiences, what does that mean for us? Well, let's start with who our audience is. Disney also says that everyone is customer facing, even if their customers are internal. Everyone needs to know how to create service magic. And so, guestology is how Disney describes the market and customer research they do to understand who their guests are and what expectations they have. And so I'd encourage us to set up these regular feedback loops so that you can use them to understand your own developers. Disney is constantly listening before guests arrive, throughout their visit to the park, and after guests arrive home. Because once Disney knows who their guests are and what they expect, they can work to exceed those expectations by delivering consistently and continuously. And so for our platform teams, we can do things like set up dedicated Slack channels, run post experience surveys, and use something called Gemba, a really great Japanese word that my company uses that means the actual place. So where the work is done. This is about shadowing people working and actually learning from watching them. Let's also talk about waiting. Everyone at an amusement park hates to wait in lines, and developers hate waiting too. So Disney says that no matter what the specific service or product being delivered, wait time is the enemy that we're all fighting. Disney found that alternatives like a fast pass system that allow people to self-manage their own time, choosing where to prioritize a faster wait time when it counts, actually improves overall park efficiency. And so giving control back to your customers is another key to that magical experience. And so what might that mean for our platform? It means mapping out the developer experience and monitoring where developers are getting stuck on tools or process that could be better designed or utilized for efficiency. We're talking about things like broken tools, flaky tests, red builds, bad docs, and slow deploys. And even in ideal situations where people are waiting, setup times, testing, unit tests, integration tests, code reviews, or getting UAT done, local and CI pipeline builds, and finally the lead time to deploy, but also the actual deploying itself. And so I want you to think about the difference again between a day at a theme park and a truly magical experience. And so consider this. How might you create a magical experience for your developers and peers? Let's talk about driving. Last summer, I got the opportunity to drive on the island of St. John. I was particularly excited to see the other side of the island that I hadn't been able to reach in the past. But here's the rub. Cars in St. John, like pictured, are left-hand drive like the US is, but are also left-hand traffic, driving on the left like in the UK. Plus, in previous trips, I had really only seen the nice waterside paved roads here, leaving the beach, nice and paved. But what looks like a nice shortcut was actually a one-lane, narrow, full of potholes and switchbacks on giant hills. I would have had no idea what to do had we gotten stuck out there. And so off-roading can be fun if you have the right car, the right equipment, and the right expertise. This was not fun. Imagine the difference between the joy of driving on an autobahn or a superhighway versus a pothole-filled back road. A few years back, Netflix talked about paved roads, and what they said was it's formalizing a set of expectations and commitments between the centralized teams and our engineering customers. And for our platforms, the notion of a paved road is that recommended way of getting something done. Getting from point A to B, there are often other off road solutions that are less supported, less maintained, create more cognitive load to use. And just like in St. John, I was solely focused on driving and not making mistakes. It's not fun. And so a paved road creates a new solution that is better supported, better maintained, and often joyful. And so, what might that mean for our platform? Well, it could be as simple as a script and as complicated as a whole developer platform. But looking for opportunities to reduce cognitive load, plug some of those potholes, or create entirely new roads. And so, what are the things that your developers keep running into, maybe even giving them a flat tire along the way? And importantly, what does it feel like to use your platform? And so, what if we do get a flat? Well, that's where roadside assistance comes in, because I think it's about continuously being able to provide support for where our customers are at. Getting stuck on the side of the road is not what your customer intended, and they probably did not plan for it. And so when we interact with a developer who has an issue, they probably didn't plan to have that issue either. But they're stuck either way, and they're frustrated. And so fixing their flat is great, but recognize that you're solving a problem that they didn't intend to have in the first place. They hope to use your slick new superhighway of a paved road to get to a particular place, but they needed help. And so what might that mean for our platform? It's answering the question behind the question for your customers to get them to their destination. Don't just fix their immediate problem by fixing their flat, but ensure they get to their destination because that was their purpose to begin with. And so the paved road should be what your developers want to do, but enough flat tires and folks will stop using your nice paved roads. And so consider this: how might you create this joyful experience of a set of paved roads and excellent roadside assistance for your developers? And finally, let's talk about the doctor's office. It's often a stressful interaction with many unknowns, coupled with being sick, hurt, or scared about what could ultimately be wrong. Doctors can get a reputation for being cold, simply out to make money off you by running tests, prescribing expensive medication, and using confusing medical jargon. And I was first introduced to this mnemonic of patient care when I started at One Medical just over 6 months ago, and it's something that both our clinicians and our corporate staff use daily. And CI Care was developed at UCLA to address this poor patient experience and focus on the most important elements of human interactions. And at its core, CI Care is about treating all people with the utmost compassion and demonstrating respect for their time, needs, and emotions. And so let's dig into how we might use this with the developers who use our platform, bringing care and compassion to our interactions. And it all starts with connecting. Connecting. So this is the opportunity at the beginning of the interaction to relate as human beings. Before your doctor might dive into other clinical or other exams and begin to form that relationship. Our customers, our developers are also our colleagues, and they're often just a Slack message away. And just because we have a more informal communication line with our users, there's no less incentive to connect with empathy. A request in Slack from an engineer is often one of the last steps that they've taken in a potentially frustrating experience of encountering an error or being blocked from doing their work. And so building that relationship is about creating safe spaces for our developers to bring up issues and know they'll be heard. If people feel their concerns won't be heard, they'll stop sharing. And if they don't share, we lose a crucial feedback loop that makes our jobs even harder to improve their development experience. Introduce. So introducing ourselves is a way of humanizing our interactions, taking us beyond that transactional care and into relationship building. Taking time to introduce ourselves, our name, our role, sets the stage for why we're connecting. People want to know that you're capable of helping them, and introductions help confirm that they're in the right place with the right people. And so as a developer, it can be easy to want to solve an issue quickly with a link to some documentation and just be done with it. I mean, why else do we have documentation? It can seem counterintuitive to spend extra time when we know that the solution is actually somewhere in our wiki. But like our roadside assistance partners, we should be top of mind for when issues go well beyond a well-written how-to page. Making sure that folks know who our team is and how we can help is crucial to that relationship building. Communicate. So this is when we share what's going to happen, when and how. This is when we use positive language to provide options and build productive relationships or add to what might currently be there. Our goal in communication should be to increase understanding on both sides. In order to best solve issues brought to our team, we have to listen. Active listening and proactive questions that dig into the root of the issue are important to make sure we're solving the actual problem. We must also acknowledge when we're using jargon that isn't always familiar to other developers. The solutions we provide can often hide an underlying layer that a developer isn't entirely comfortable with. And so communicating in the language that they understand and proactively explaining things that they don't goes a long way to building on that trust. Asking permission. Asking permission gives control by respectfully empowering someone with choice and autonomy. So as we're communicating, we should be understanding how a developer can be helped most effectively and what they're really comfortable with. Asking if a developer is comfortable jumping on a video call or sharing their screen could be daunting, because if they've had that trust violated before, they might not be ready to do it again. Having a developer make changes to their setup is a big area where we should be sensitive to ask first and recognize where sometimes it's in their interest to have them learn what to do rather than just doing something for them. And some developers may be less comfortable with running diagnostics or commands that we assume to be familiar. So being patient with their mistakes goes a long way in furthering that trust. Respond. This is about showing respect and attentiveness to someone by addressing potential questions and future needs and sharing what will happen next. Anticipating every issue is impossible, but as much as we can, we should try to understand the issue behind the issue. We might be helping to resolve an engineer's database, but they may have other setup issues lurking. Getting that engineer back to productivity should be our end goal, just like our roadside assistance example. Maybe you have a script that developers can run to diagnose problems. Help them understand how to use that in the future for similar issues. And finally, exit. Ending interactions with clarity, warmth, and respect. This is about using endings to reconnect personally and with gratitude. We're grateful for any opportunity to help our fellow engineers and receive feedback on what can be improved in their development experience. And so thanking folks for their time and ensuring they know how to reach out again in the future is important, even if just to clarify that a better team may be able to support them. And so consider this. How might you take these approaches and approach your fellow developers in a more caring and compassionate way? And so to conclude, in each of these situations, you'll notice that people are put first and that customer service is paramount. We saw how you can transform these ordinary, fearful, or insensitive experiences with intention. This isn't just for platform teams, though. We can all consider how we build better products and better interfaces that continue to delight our users. And so I'll leave you with these questions. How might you create a magical experience for your developers and peers? How might you create a joyful experience of paved roads and excellent roadside assistance for your developers? And how might you approach your fellow developers in a way that is more caring and compassionate? So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I'm very grateful for the chance to share these experiences, and I hope that you've been able to take something away from today. Thanks.